President Biden is warning Russian President Vladimir Putin he will be personally sanctioned if he invades Ukraine.
Moscow denies those plans despite staging 100,000 troops at Ukraine's border. The White House says it could soon deploy the 8,500 forces it put on standby to NATO's eastern flank. This comes as fears grow Russia could also cut off energy shipments through Ukraine. CBS News' Natalie Brand has the latest.
Russia's defense ministry released new video of warships leaving a port in Crimea as concerns grow over an imminent invasion of Ukraine, with roughly 100,000 Russian troops already amassed at the border.
If he were to move in with all those forces, it would be the largest invasion since World War II. It would change the world.
President Biden said he may soon deploy the 8,500 U.S. troops currently on heightened alert because it takes time to get them into position. But the president stressed U.S. boots would not go beyond NATO's eastern flank.
We have no intention of putting American forces or NATO forces in Ukraine. But as I said, there are going to be serious economic consequences if he moves.
The White House says severe consequences could include sanctions on Russian President Vladimir Putin himself. A senior administration official says the administration is also considering controlling exports related to semiconductors to harm Russian industries if Russia invades.
He wants Russia to become like the Soviet Union again.
Exiled Russian businessman Mikhail Khodorkovsky is a very public critic of Putin.
It's criminal boss. You need to talk with him like with criminal boss.
Amid fears that Putin could cut off oil and gas shipments that run through Ukraine in coming weeks, a senior administration official says the White House is working with global suppliers to prevent an energy shortage in Europe. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
And CBS News foreign correspondent Holly Williams joins us now from Kyiv. Hi, Holly. So, we've been hearing a lot about Russia's plans and U.S. and NATO reaction to Russian movements. But how is the government of Ukraine and its citizens responding to all that's happened in the last 48 hours?
Well, the Ukrainian government continues to urge calm. In fact, we heard from the country's defense minister yesterday who told Ukrainians to sleep well and there was no need to pack their bags. That's clearly a very deliberate policy. They don't want people here to panic. They know that that would be destabilizing. But remember also that people here in Ukraine have been living with Russian aggression for years now. It's nothing new to them. And the truth is that Russia has already invaded Ukraine. Russia invaded Ukraine back in 2014 when it seized control of the Crimean Peninsula, and completely contrary to international law, according to the US and its allies. That same year, Russia started backing armed separatists in the country's east. And this is certainly not the first time that Ukrainians have had tens of thousands of Russian troops sitting on their border. Finally, if Russia invades, and Russia maintains that it has no plans to invade, but if Russia invades or launches an attack, nobody knows what form that attack would take. So how do you plan for that? I mean, people are setting up bomb shelters here, renovating old Cold War bomb shelters. But beyond that, I mean, what do you do? Run for the hills? That's certainly not what Ukrainians are doing at this point.
And to your point that nobody knows what form an attack by Russia might take, is Ukraine more concerned about a military attack or something less brazen, or perhaps even a cyber attack? And could any of those sorts of aggressions have a ripple effect across Europe?
Well, I think that the Ukrainians and all of their friends and allies are very worried about all of those scenarios. First of all, a kind of full-blown Russian invasion, that would be devastating for Ukraine. Huge loss of life, huge loss of Russian life probably also. But both the US and Ukraine have raised this idea of a much smaller incursion, and particularly the idea of the Russians staging some kind of incident as a pretext for moving in. And the Ukrainians have been really specific with one scenario. They've talked about the possibility of the Russians staging an accident in a chemical facility in the part of eastern Ukraine that's controlled by those separatists, and using that as a pretext for moving in. And then the cyber attack, as you mentioned, some experts say that the Russians have actually been using Ukraine as a testing ground for their cyber attack abilities. And in fact, Russian hackers have been blamed for more than one occasion when parts of Ukraine's grid has been taken out. So look, it's the middle of winter here. It's very cold. Cyber attacks targeting Ukraine's critical infrastructure would also be devastating.
So much possible devastation. Holly Williams in Kyiv, thank you so much for joining us.